So hello everyone, welcome to this week's YouTube tutorial. Slightly different this week because I'm actually going to use an extract from one of my training courses to help kind of illustrate the message that I want to get across. Now, this week I want to talk specifically about ROI, return on investment. And the biggest question that I get from senior managers and those that are making the decisions around technical publications and should we be using things like S1000D is, this is all good and it looks great, but where is the return on investment? So I'm going to today just go through one of the examples that I go through on one of my training courses, and I hope that it adds some value and benefit to you. If you're interested in me running this course publicly, i.e. we sell some tickets online and you guys want to join and you want to see the full course, get in touch with us or like this video so I know that it's resonating with you. But today I'm going to, like I say, change it a little bit where I've been just talking to the camera previously. I'm going to show you some of the slides from one of my training courses, and the training course that we're going to go into today is actually the return on investment. It's actually from our contracting for S1000D course. So one of the things that I always kick off with on the training course is that if we are comparing S1000D to traditional technical publication production methods, S1000D will lose. It will always lose. And that's because we, in our mind, if you attended a webinar I did a couple of weeks ago and a presentation I've done recently, I believe S1000D is actually badly named because, you know, we are talking about the configuration and development of structured information, not just technical publications. And, you know, ultimately that's where we're going, but we can get much more from our S1000D based technical publications. So the fact is if we are comparing the ability to write a technical publication in Word or something along those lines, S1000D will lose. It always will. And if your motivation is nothing more than writing a simple technical publication and creating a PDF and sending that out with your product, S1000D is not for you. You should not be using S1000D. You could use it, but if you are not integrating with other systems, you don't have multiple partners and suppliers, and you're not wanting to create fan-dabby-dooby XML-based S1000D IETPs, S1000D is not for you. But for those of you that that want to maximize and leverage the value and the benefit of S1000D, then we need to understand where we're going to get that return on investment. And ROI, return on investment, is not obvious with S1000D. The measurement that we normally use for our ROI is that we often just want to look at the pounds, dollars and euros. And, you know, we are looking at ROI from a different perspective. And I'm going to come on to what I mean by that very, very shortly. But the ROI is not often as binary or as obvious as we may expect. So this is where I spend a lot of my time helping people understand where they're going to get that ROI. And I'm going to give you an example in this particular YouTube tutorial on where we can see that, because often it's not understood by the contracting authority what we're actually getting. But what we often see when we talk about S1000D is we see the obvious. We see the complexity, we see the requirement to configure and set up and have all of the building blocks in place for our project. And we see that there's lots of specialist skills and tools and software and knowledge required around the use of S1000D. This is very obvious and is actually one of the biggest barriers when I'm going in to help organizations adopt S1000D, just purely because they find it frightening. They're comparing the old traditional word-based technical publication to an S1000D based methodology, and they quite rightly are questioning, well, what do we get out of this, Mike? You know, we need to know what we're going to get out of this. So I always spend a bit of time saying we have to stop saying S1000D is equal to a typical and traditional technical publication. It's much, much more. So we have to try and disassociate the link between what the actual specification says it is, i.e. a technical publication specification. Again, I believe it's actually misleading in the title a little bit. And, you know, we have to accept that it's much, much more than what we expect from a traditional technical publication. So from an S1000D perspective, we have the ability to go out to a traditional technical publication for sure, but we have all of these different domains and silos that feed into our technical publications. Yes, we do that obviously on a traditional technical publications methodology as well, but not necessarily in such a process-driven way. But S1000D is all about a through life cycle approach and methodology to our technical publications. And, you know, we can integrate with wider support ecosystems, wider specifications and standards, and we can gain much more by delivering something like an interactive technical publication, IETP, and the specialist software vendors out there that support this. And if you're looking for an IETP solution, I strongly recommend you go to our website, go check out the guys that support the work that we do. And they make it possible for us to make these videos that we can make available on YouTube and our website. So please go and check them out. So, but we also have to stop thinking that this is equal to this. You know, we have to stop thinking that an IETP is nothing more than that traditional technical publication represented on a tablet or a mobile device or whatever it is. Now, I gave a presentation to a group recently. I'll put a link below. I've made it publicly available, where we talk about what's going on behind the page as opposed to what's happening on top of the page. And so we have to disassociate and stop thinking that this is just a replacement for this. It is actually much more. The IETP is greater than the traditional technical publication, and we're going to get much more out of this. And this is only going to improve and get much, much stronger as we start seeing the wider adoption of the S-series specifications and the wider adoption of IoT capabilities, Internet of Things capabilities like augmented reality, AI, virtual reality, all these kind of things. So today's S1000D publication is actually far more complex and has lots more information in it, and we feed in and out of that technical publication in many ways. Now, on my training courses, we would go much deeper into this. We're not going to do that for the purposes of YouTube, but if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll look at how I can make a publicly available course for purchase on this. So, but today's S1000D technical publication actually gives us much more in terms of configuration control, in terms of interaction, in the way that we can connect our systems and our platforms to other environments. So the problem is that we still measure ROI in terms of pounds, dollars, and euros, and we have to consider both the indirect and the direct ROI. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you are comparing your traditional technical publications contracts to an S1000D based contract, S1000D will lose. You are better off if that is your primary focus, then S1000D is not going to win, because it needs all of this configuration upfront, specialist skills, specialist tools, but we have to then balance that off with where that ROI actually is going to sit for our platform. So, but believe it or not, there are actually different areas of ROI. And on my course, we talk a little bit about where you sit in the product development and operational cycle, depends on where your ROI is. There is different ROI at different levels. It's not the same for everybody. So what the manufacturer and the OEM get in terms of ROI is not what the operator and the maintainer and the owner gets in terms of ROI. It's different. So you need to understand the different areas where ROI is actually delivered and received across our project. And again, we won't go through all of this in detail today, but we go through where and what we get from using XML and why we use structured languages and why S1000D builds on those methodologies. And then are we building into that wider ecosystem and the IPS specifications, the S series specifications, or indeed other specifications. S series and S1000D is a methodology. It's not the only methodology. It's not the only story in town. And, you know, if you want to use XML documentation at a fraction of a cost, there are ways of doing that. But if we want to integrate into the wider ecosystem, then obviously S1000D is where we are going to want to sit. The nature and the problems that S1000D fixes on multi-partner, multi-supplier projects and those that have long life cycles and lifespans, and the rapid developments in IoT technology. And, you know, one of the things I say to my customers when I'm supporting them is that if we are developing a ship and that ship is coming into service, the way that we are delivering technical publications today will not be the way that we should be delivering technical publications in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years' time. That will change. So we need to have a strategy on how we're going to ensure that we stay abreast of technology and how we can keep up with the changes in that last box, how our end user actually wants to interact with and engage with our technical information. So depending on where we sit and depending on where we are, will dictate our perspective on the technical publication, but also therefore the perspective on S1000D. So if we are in the supply chain, i.e. the manufacturing supply chain, and we're producing information, we are going to have a different perspective to the operator, the user, or the owner of the platform. So we're going to look a little bit at a specific example right now. On my training course, we'd go through ROI in different areas, but we are going to look at a traditional technical publications approach. So now, if you consider a traditional, and I've had to genericize a lot of this, but you can see how the traditional technical publications processes difference is still different in terms of how we would use S1000D, but the function of the information that we are trying to get to our user is the same and consistent, but it's how we can deliver that and how we can actually make our users much more efficient. So if we think about a platform, and you know, we have a modern platform that's supported with lots of different types of publications, data sets, and we have the maintainer that needs to decide what they're going to do and how they're going to get the information from the support publications. So if I go back to my days, and I haven't maintained an aircraft for a very long time, but you know, if I was assigned a task, I then had to know where I had to go and have a look at the technical publications, which publications contained which types of information, and understand the quirkiness of the technical publications as well. And then also I had to be aware of any local instructions or any kind of supplementary information that I needed to be aware of. And of course, we then, if I'm ordering parts, there was a manumatic process that was often error prone, and we could often go and order something with a part number that was maybe written in a technical publication that's wrong. And you know, it's not unheard of that the incorrect part turns up, and we can give you lots of stories about that. So this is obviously simplified, but if we turn that into something which is a little bit more complex, that was an example of one product, one maintainer. But that is not always the case, nor how we should look at this in context. So we have fleets of our platforms, and those platforms have often squadrons or lots of flight lines or maintenance organizations supporting these fleets of operational pieces of equipment. And we still have the technical publications that support that, and we also still have those local instructions, local supplementary information that is appropriate to lots of different versions of or instances of our product. And we still have these maintainers all going through the parts ordering process. And, you know, how often do we get that part number wrong? How often are we shipping the wrong piece of support information, or the actual products that we're ordering or parts that we're ordering are wrong? You know, how times that by divisions of the maintainers. We often forget in our task analysis that we have to give time and allocate time for the maintainers to go and gather information. So they might be awarded a task or given a task. Awarded is probably not something they would say, but they've been assigned a task. They have to go and read all of the necessary publications, all of the instructions, make sure they've got all of the tools, make sure they've got all of the necessary spares, make sure that the platform is available, ready for them to go and work on, make sure that there's nobody else working on certain areas of the platform that may interfere with each other's maintenance tasks, all of those things which were very manumatic. But add into that mix that our platforms today are in service for a very, very long time. And that means that we have decades of maintenance hours, maintenance times, technical publications access time. So over that fleet, over that entire kind of ecosystem of that particular product, over its life cycle, how many man hours do we spend accessing technical publications? And, you know, we know that it's per task. We can be very, very conservative and say that, you know, maybe 20-25% of a task, depending on its complexity, is accessing technical support information, ordering parts, making sure that we have access to the right information, etc. So if we think now about the S1000D approach, the S1000D approach is we still have that platform. We still have the required and desired technical publications that are required to make sure that we keep this platform in service. And we can now put the S1000D data structures right at the heart of our technical publications processes. So therefore, using XML structures, again, we would come on to why you would use XML, but this is one of those reasons and why you would use S1000D. We can use the information in very clever ways to ensure that the user is getting access to the information much, much quicker, can order parts information and spares quickly and correctly, and the information is accurate and up to date. And all of this content is centralized in an S1000D IETP instance. So if we take that across and compare it to the traditional publications approach, and we overlay where that IETP can sit, so we can actually reduce our technical publications access time, and we can then make our maintainers that much more efficient. So even if we reduced our maintainers' technical publication access time, and we even if we made them over the life cycle of a 30-40 year platform, we made each maintainer 1% more efficient in terms of accessing technical publications, and we ensured that the parts ordering was accurate and up to date, and we got the right part at the right time, those kind of things. You can see how much we are going to save in terms of man hours. You can see how much we're going to save in terms of ordering the wrong parts from the supply chain. And, you know, if we use even just a part number that's even only one digit out, can have a massive difference in what is delivered and sent to us, which means, ergo, the platform is not available to go and actually go and do its mission. It's sat there doing its own thing while we're waiting for a part, or we have to go and cannibalize off another piece of equipment, or you get the idea. So ROI is an area where I spend a tremendous amount of my time advising clients, and it's not always obvious. I've given you one example today of where the ROI could be found if you wanted to go down an XML S1000D adoption. Now, this is only going to deliver more ROI as we start seeing more and more in our sector and our industries the adoption of the wider IoT methodologies. We're going to be driving more and more of these efficiencies. And let's be honest, S1000D has ended up here quite by accident, right? So, you know, the original thought processes behind S1000D was not thinking about IoT, was not thinking about connected platforms and those kind of things when it was very first conceived, but just naturally and quite by accident, a bit like penicillin, just quite by accident, it is actually going to be returning lots and lots of ROI for our products and our platforms as we move into the wider integrated product support arena. Again, if you are comparing S1000D equals technical publication, and in your mind you've got your old technical publication, it's S1000D is going to lose. It's not a egg. We say in England, eggs for eggs. It's not a direct comparison. So that's it. That's this week. I hope you found it useful. I'm really appreciating lots of the love, the comments, the feedback, the LinkedIn messages, the emails that are all coming my way. I think next week we're talking what does S1000D good look like. You have been quite nicely sending in lots and lots of questions. I've had questions around augmented reality. Can we use a CSDB for other parts of the IPS ecosystem? So we're lining them up. If you want more information about this training course, get in touch with us. More than happy to answer the questions for you. If you are looking for a good, functional, solid S1000D IETP, check out our members and the vendors that support the work that I do here at TDW, and that makes it possible for me to bring you this kind of free content. I'm Michael Ingledew. I hope you found that useful. And yeah, if you want more information, get in touch. But until next week, everybody, stay safe, and I'll see you on the other side.